My name's Tim Thurston. I'm from Team-i, and I'm with
Jamie Martin of Correct Careers Coaching.
And this is the next in our series of recordings that we're doing for local businesses discussing topical issues that we hope will help improve your organisation and your employees within your organisation. Today, we're going to be talking about managing performance. And you've been a manager in an organisation, haven't you, Jamie?
Yeah, I was a manager for a fair few years. Was promoted 5 times and set up a new sales team from startup. So yeah, some good experience of managing employees, not being an abundance of individuals. And, we had various different, situations to look at within the team. So yeah, and yourself, Tim, being an MD, and working in various different corporate organizations, you must have had a lot of experience of employing and managing performance.
Yeah, I've been managing director of 5 different businesses, and I like the topic of management. I studied it, did the diploma in management studies, and I've done an awful lot of research with elite sports teams to understand how their teamwork, their high-level performance teamwork is achieved, and the leadership and management within the context of sport, and then translating that back to business. The starting point for me, though, I think the point that I want to cover first, Jamie, is the difference between leadership and management. And I've got a very simple military example to explain that. And that leadership is, when are you going to go into battle? So when are you going to deploy the troops and take them into battle? And then management is about making sure that the troops are ready for battle. So that's about organisation, it's about controlling budgets, it's about implementation of plans. So there's quite a distinct difference there. However, almost without exception, in the workplace, those roles merge. And as my role as a managing director of media businesses, of a group of magazines for Archant, I led that organisation, but I also was very much involved with managing it on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's the first point in terms of managing performance, is understanding that you probably, especially if you're a small or medium-sized business, you wear that dual role and you have to lead your organisation, but you also have to manage it as well.
Yeah, you speak about leadership and management. It's an integral topic for most businesses. Managing, you're more telling people to do something, directing them. You're not really having that hands-on coaching approach, and your style could be very much authoritative. Looking at a leadership style, is to lead by example. Trust in your employees, let them make their mistakes because they will learn from that, more so, and lead in a very democratic way. But I think, as a leader, you really got to show it can be done, and lead from the front, and, give your employees that time, to grasp into their role, but guiding them in the right direction. And I think there's a lot of controversy between, what makes a good manager, what makes a good leader, what organizations have leaders and managers, and how the employees are viewing their senior people. And when we talk about engagement, having a good manager or having a bad manager, 50% of individuals do lead if they have a bad manager, so some reports say. So, it's about having the right person in charge of a team to make sure that the employees are supported, especially now during COVID-19 social isolation. How are leaders and managers, either one, managing performance during these times?
Yes, and it is a very, very important aspect of any business. One takes expenditure very, very seriously when procurement takes place, IT systems. But when it comes to staff, it does seem that probably the most expensive resource in a lot of organisations, once someone's recruited, their expectation of the management of that organisation is that they will just perform. And that's far from the truth. Yes, occasionally you will get people that are 100% self-starters and can be completely delegated to. But in the main, utilising those resources is just as important as understanding how to work a software program. So what we're going to cover today, very briefly, we're going to talk about the managing performance. So we're not going to talk too much about leadership and management styles and different forms of communication. all of that information is available through Team-i workshops, and it'd be great to have people on those workshops. But today, I'm just going to give you a few thoughts and hints and tips in terms of performance management. It's quite a simple process that I always suggest you follow when doing this. The first point is setting objectives. You need to make it very, very clear to every single member of the team what their role is, what their expectations of the role is, and what they expect from you in return. The old-fashioned way, and to be fair, I've probably not come up with anything better than this, is just setting some SMART objectives. So they're specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and relevant. I think there's 2 R's in there. They need to be relevant to their role, they need to be realistic, and they need to be timed. I guess there's not too much controversy in terms of SMART objectives, Jamie.
No, it's having a smart objectives. It speaks for itself, but it's also making them in manageable time frames. So, whether you set it as a 30-day, quarterly or annual reviews, but you are right there, Tim.
Exactly. So timing is very, very important. The second thing then is to make sure you monitor progress against those objectives. Use data, and if you feel that things aren't progressing as you want them to, deal in facts, not conjecture, because you need to reassess and reset, get people back on track. And the only way you can do that is by them having complete clarity in respect of what they're trying to achieve and where they are on that process so far. So use data. When I had update meetings with my team, I would generally have a formal one-to-one meeting each week. That was my style. I like to have a weekly meeting. And at that review meeting, I would ask the team member how they felt they were performing and how they were progressing towards achieving their objectives before I made any comment, because I wanted to understand their perception of where they were. The second most important point I want to make on this is that always take notes when you have those meetings. It shows you're interested, and it gives you tangible things that you can then follow up on at future meetings. When my boss took notes, I knew that I had to deliver. So in terms of managing process, it's not a big brother approach, but make a note so that both parties know exactly what the situation is, where we're progressing to achieving those objectives. Because as long as you've set those objectives correctly, the employee wants to deliver them. They're buying into your purpose. They want to do a good job. So you're helping them be successful. That was the way that I looked upon that monitoring process. Give feedback on their performance. So if you have an update meeting with more than one member of the team there, it's very, very important to understand the dynamics of the group and not to necessarily build someone up too high, and also not to knock someone down. I did that once. I had a very bad experience where I mishandled poor performance with an individual, and it was very, very poor from them. But whereas I should have dealt with it one-to-one, I dealt with it in the meeting, and that destroyed the whole feel of that meeting, and the meeting was a waste of time. So be very, very careful. There's a pitfall there. Learn from my mistakes on that. If it's a one-to-one, then think about how that person's going to receive that feedback. When use these opportunities of monitoring sessions, particularly the one-to-ones, to get to know the person better, not just the employee. If you understand the person, you can give feedback more appropriately. You can engage with that person so much better. And in my experience, they will engage much better with you, and their performance will improve significantly on the back of that. Does that align with your experiences, Jamie?
Yeah, when I was a manager, and I would have the weekly meetings. We'd also have a short, one morning meeting, and I would let other individuals of the team, put their thoughts, so we can, strategize and structure the day. So I would include them, but effectively, managing performance, you've got to direct it. I think feedback also is an area you mentioned there, which is very strong. How can we provide constructive feedback to employees, if they're not performing or they are disrupting to the team? Absolutely.
And then once you've given that feedback, for me, it's identifying training and development needs that's going to allow them to achieve their objectives. Obviously, they need to be aligned to what you're trying to achieve, but rather than assuming you've set your objectives correctly, rather than rip those up, the objectives, generally speaking, the longer term ones are in train. So what development do they need to make sure they can achieve those objectives? And then you reset and you start that process again. By doing that, I think you build trust. As my old boss in one of my organizations said, the most important thing for a boss is to have the back of their team. If an employee feels that their boss has their back, boy, does that make a big difference. So a very, very simple, old-fashioned saying, really, but never has it been truer, I don't think. So to summarize, managing performance is about setting very, very clear objectives, monitoring that performance using data, using facts, soliciting feedback on performance from the team, and then giving your feedback in a positive way, identifying any training and development needs, resetting and starting that process again. That, for me, Jamie, is the recipe to good performance management.
Yeah, and I will leave the audience with, from a training coaching perspective, 42% of goals written down are more likely to be achieved. So yes, you are right. Have it written down so both parties can understand the feedback, what they need to do on a daily basis to achieve those goals and tasks. And effectively build more engagement with one another.
Good luck managing your teams.